All right, hey everybody, Ryan Hoberg here with Josh Handeland. This is going to be the first episode of a new little series I'm going to do over, I don't know, the next year or however long. Don't know the name yet, but get to know Minnesota Armwrestling, something along those lines. I'm going to try to highlight some of the notable pullers in the state, guys who've been around a while, guys who might have aspirations nationally, so you can kind of get to know Minnesota Armwrestlers, who we are, and hopefully inspire some people to come out and pull. So Josh is ranked 10th nationally left hand at 172. Been as high as probably three?
Was that third before I pulled Dusty Hyatt?
Before you pulled Dusty Hyatt, yep. Right hand has been ranked nationally, but we'll just say his right hand exists at the moment.
Right hand's not too far away.
And it's not far, it's on the rise. He just took second in a Minnesota Supermatch round robin event. 176, and you're ranked, what are you ranked? Third in Minnesota, right hand, 176. Wakely, Corey Lyon, and you.
Yep.
So, accolades on both arms. Josh, thanks for talking tonight.
Yeah, no problem.
When did you start arm wrestling, and how did you get into the sport?
So, competitively, or just like...
What's like your first arm wrestling memory? Was it pulling with your dad or grandpa, or...
Okay, I could tell stories for days, but I don't know which one was first, but probably I think what was first was, I remember, I don't know what age, but as long as I can remember, I remember being a little kid. I have one brother, 3 years older than me, and I remember pulling my mom and my brother on our kitchen table when I was a kid, and I just loved it. It was so fun, even though obviously they could beat me. My mom kind of was, I don't think she didn't just slam us or nothing. She played with us, right?
Yep.
And then also in first grade, some of you know Yosef. You know Yosef?
Yosef, yeah.
So in first grade, I went to school with Yosef, preschool all the way through senior year of high school.
Oh, I didn't know that. I knew you guys were friends.
We met in preschool and we were friends in preschool.
Okay.
And in first grade, every day at lunch, we had a half hour for lunch. We'd eat our lunch. We'd still have time left in the lunch break. So we'd be like, well, what are we going to do now? Let's arm wrestle. So we'd arm wrestle every day.
Wow, that's... Because you guys traveled together once you guys both were established and stuff. Oh, cool, that's cool.
And I honestly, not even just saying this, but I can't remember who won between us. It was probably, back and forth back then, because I was, obviously if one of us just slammed the other one, we probably wouldn't have kept doing it. But every day we'd arm wrestle. So
growing up for fun, you pulled a lot. You pulled with Yosef in school.
Yep.
And then I know... I've seen on your YouTube channel, you have videos, early Josh Handeland, when he still had hair, videos.
Hey.
From, was it high school?
High school, yep, senior year. So basically pulled with Yosef, and then I just always liked arm wrestling my whole life, even though I wouldn't say I was good at it. I was average, I'd say. Sometimes I'd win, sometimes I'd lose against school kids my age and size, but I didn't arm wrestle every day by any means, or even every month probably, besides that first grade thing. Up until 11th grade in high school, I started arm wrestling kids every day. And I was like, this is so fun. So I just wanted to do it because it was fun. I didn't even care if I won or lost. I obviously didn't want to lose. Obviously I wanted to win, but if I did lose, it wasn't
Were you following the arm wrestling scene at the time?
No.
Okay, no. So when did that start?
So...
I know for those of you who don't know Josh, he's a huge arm wrestling fan, international arm wrestling fan. He can name more arm wrestlers than anybody else I know in the world. So when did that kind of start, that part of it?
2006 probably, so I graduated in 2008. So 2006 was the beginning of my junior year of high school, and I started going against everybody. And then probably a couple months after that, sometime maybe later in 2006 or maybe 2007, I Googled arm wrestling and I saw that it was an actual sport. Back then in 2007, if you Googled Minnesota arm wrestling, one result came up and it was some picture and a little article about some tournament back in the 90s from Minnesota. That was the only thing.
I thought Love
in the whole state.
I thought Love Keys might have come up if you had.
I don't think so. I think that was the only thing in the whole state. And back in early 2007, late 2006, if you YouTubed arm wrestling, I think I watched every single arm wrestling video on YouTube. Actual pro arm wrestling, not the kitchen table.
Yep.
Nobodies or the body.
Your first videos.
The big thing was the female bodybuilders arm wrestling each other or whatever, and I didn't watch those. Just like this, like all that was on YouTube was like the Zloty tour where Alexi Vovoda and John Brzenk pulled. Funny. So I googled arm wrestling, and I read that John Brzenk was the greatest arm wrestler of all time.
Yep.
So I was like, I gotta see a video of this. So I went on YouTube, and the very first real arm wrestling video I ever watched was Alexi Vovoda versus John Brzenk.
That's a good way to get you into the sport.
And this was like dial-up internet, like click on the video, come back 10, 20 minutes later. And Vovoda took down John Brzenk. I'm like, this guy's not even that good. I'm like, this Vovoda guy just smoked him. I'm like, Vovoda's the best.
This is why he loves European arm
he's
wrestlers.
way better than John.
To this day, he still loves European arm wrestlers more than American arm wrestlers.
Yeah.
It's pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah, back then, like, I click on the video and then take the dog for a walk and come back and watch it because it's dial-up, right?
Yep.
And I think I watched literally every single video on YouTube back in like 2006, 7, and the actual pro arm wrestling videos.
So that's 17, 18 years ago.
Yeah.
So you would have been, what, mid-teens at the time?
16, 17,
Mid-late teens? Okay.
I saw the World Arm Wrestling Rankings back then by Ingan Terzi on the World of Arm Wrestling website. It doesn't exist anymore. Like, you had the top 10 for each weight class. I think it was the top 10 for each weight class right-handed and the top 5 for left. And
so how did you make that jump from arm wrestling in high school, kind of getting hooked on, watching stuff online, to actually training and getting into the sport on a professional basis?
So back then, like, I wanted to get better, but we didn't have weights at home really, so I had a 5-gallon bucket of deck stain I'd curl.
Okay.
And
that's awesome.
I do like, I don't know what my workout regimen was, but I do like probably 3 to 5 sets of 10, like twice a week maybe. And I just do push-ups and pull-ups, not like a ton, maybe like 50 push-ups, maybe 30 pull-ups, like a couple times a week.
Okay.
And then I'd arm wrestle at school almost every day, to be honest.
Wow.
But at first I was like, when I Googled it and I saw it was like an actual sport, I was like, well, that'd be cool to try someday. But I was like, oh, whatever. And then
and this was before there were no apps like they have now where you can find, or Facebook where you get groups.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah.
And then like, I was pretty average at school, but I was just by doing it every day, even though I had bad technique, like, I got to the point where I could beat just about anyone. And I went to a school with 2,000 kids. It was rare to find anyone that could beat me. And then I'm like, okay, I actually want to pull a good arm wrestlers. I don't want to just, like, I want to do this for real, because, like, this is super fun, and I'm not going to get anywhere just pulling my guys in school.
Yep.
So I found the Northeast Arm Wrestling message board, which was the big thing back then. And I was like, this is sweet. Like, people are posting practices all around the country. And I'm like, I'm going to find some guys in Minnesota to pull with. So I started a thread, and I'm like, who all arm wrestles in Minnesota? I want to practice. And no one in Minnesota, the arm wrestler was on the, no one. Zero.
Really? Okay.
But Harold Ryden from California used to live here, and he told me to give him a call, and he could hook me up with some guys.
Wow. Okay. So who did you get hooked up with?
So first I didn't call him because I'm like, I can find guys on my own. I don't need to do that. But then it was like 6 months later, and I'm like, I'm at like a standstill. Like, I haven't found anything, obviously. So I'm like, I should call this guy. So I sent him a message. I'm like, can I still call you? He's like, sure. And he gave me 4 numbers: Dave Bauer, Jason Reamer, Rhett Hodek, and Marty O'Neill. Actually, he didn't. This is funny. So is it okay if I ramble?
Oh yeah, go for it.
He didn't have Dave Bauer's number. So I looked him up. So first I called Jason, and he's just like, oh yeah, I'm not into it anymore. And that was basically the end of that. I couldn't get a hold of Marty or Rhett. And then Dave Bauer, I looked him up on whitepages.com, and there's a few of them. So I'm like, I'm just gonna call the first one and until I find this guy. So I called Dave Bauer.
Man. This is full commitment to arm wrestling.
And this was the end. This was like spring 2008 now, so I was near the end of my senior year in high school. So this was, and I called Dave Bauer, and someone answered, and I'm like, hi, is Dave home? And he's just like, no. And I'm like, oh, do you know Dave? He's like, yeah, it's my dad. And I'm like, oh, do you know if he's an arm wrestler? And he's like, yeah, he is. I'm like, oh, can you have him call me? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, cool.
That's how it happened?
Yeah. So then Dave Bauer calls me later that same day, and he gave me there was a guy in South Minnesota who ran 2 tournaments a year usually at the Olmsted County Fair and the Fillmore County Fair. And he gave me his number, and then he gave me Jerry Halverson's number. This guy held wrestling tournaments, like the old school ones where you pin the guy to your other arm.
Yep.
And so I called both those guys, and basically Todd, the guy that ran the ones in South Minnesota, told me the same thing. Basically, okay, these are the dates and the weight classes and whatever. And then Jerry sent me a flyer because he did tournaments all over, mostly in like North Iowa and Wisconsin, but a couple in like the Rochester area.
Okay. So
an hour and a half. I lived in Minneapolis, so everything. He sent me so I've been looking on the Northeast board for tournaments.
Yep.
I remember anyways, there wasn't any within like the 5-state region that were posted, which actually there were, but I must not have seen them. But Jerry sent me his flyer, and there were tournaments all over Wisconsin and Iowa, and I looked one up. I'm like, this one's less than 3 hours away. It was in Cresco, Iowa. And I told my parents, I'm like, I want to go, and they're like, okay, we'll go down there too with you or whatever. Like, I had my license, but they wanted to check it out or whatever. And,
yep.
And then I told Yosef, we're still in school together, and he was starting to get into. So it's funny. So anyone that knows Yosef well, I don't know what our record is, but he probably beat me 85% of the time. And, like, he hasn't competed since probably 2017 or 18, but, like, the last 5 years of him competing, 6 years maybe, besides, like, 1 year where he slacked off and I beat him, he usually just, like, beat me easy. Like, he was, like, super strong.
And for those of you that don't know, Yosef's not...
Same weight class.
Yeah, Yosef wasn't a slouch, like, pulled WAL. Like,
yeah, he was
Yosef was legit.
Strong.
Yep.
But back then, so he started arm wrestling senior year of high school, and I could beat him easily. Like, it wasn't hard. But he started pulling, like, everyone every day, and after, like, a month, maybe 2 months, like, it was, like, I could beat him, but it was, like, a war.
Yep.
And I'm like, dang, this guy's getting strong quick. So I told him, I got other stories, too, but I told him, I'm like, I'm going to this tournament in Cresco, Iowa, and he's like, I'm going, too. I'm like, you are? He's like, yeah. I'm like, cool. We skipped our senior prom to go down there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Do you remember how you guys both did in that?
Yeah, but before that, I'll tell you that, so you know how you get, like, the new guy pain and all that?
Oh, yeah.
So I was arm wrestling every day in school, but usually I was arm wrestling, like weaker kids, like, just it was like more of, like, a for fun thing. Like, everyone would be like, go against that guy. Like, they'd know I was going to beat him. It wasn't like, oh, who's going to win? So I didn't really get that pain, but all of a sudden one day, my right arm just started throbbing.
Okay.
And I'm like, what the heck? So I went on the Northeast message board, and I'm like, what's going on with my arm? And they're all like, it's normal. So I'm like, okay. So then I started just doing my other arm. And
that's why his left is good.
And then that one started hurting too.
Okay.
And then Yosef, you'd be like, who should I go against? So I just put him against people instead back in high school. Oh, I got another story too. Or just everyone listening, because Ryan already said my left arm is better than my right. And people are always like, I probably heard this question, I probably get like 50 times a year. Are you left-handed? No. But my left was always better. I remember in high school, I went against this kid who was like probably 80 pounds heavier than me if I had to guess. And he was a lefty, and I'm righty. And we went right, and he beat me. And then we went left, and I beat him, even though he's lefty and I'm not.
So it's crazy. So it's been day one.
And there were people that were close to me, right? Like bigger people or adults. And then we go left, and I beat them pretty much every time.
So just something about just the natural feeling.
Always was that way. I always thought it was because if we went right and it was close or I lost, I'd get pissed, and then that's why I went left. But
maybe that's what started it. Who knows?
That was cool. So Andrew Thomas, I think that was his name. He was like a popular kid, football player, did a little rapping. And when we arm wrestled right-handed, the one where he beat me in the war in senior year, we had a balcony around our lunchroom, and we had a 2,000-person school. And, like, everyone just crowded around the table when we were arm wrestling. There was probably 500 people watching.
Oh, that's cool.
And, like, it was like if there was a fight and people crowded around, like, all the teachers were trying to get over to see what was going on. But then after he beat me, and then we switched to left, and I beat him even though he was a lefty, but all the kids had left by that time. Oh, no. Like, lefty never mattered, right? It was always about the right.
Still the same to this day. Lefty doesn't matter.
But first tournament, we went down to Cresco, Iowa. I don't think I ate anything the whole day because I was too nervous, and it was like an evening tournament. we got there probably 2 hours early because my parents were worried we were going to be late. And so most of Jerry's wrestling tournaments were actually really small. It was like, oh, there's no one in your weight class, so we'll put you up against the next guy above you.
Okay.
But just by coincidence, I think maybe because it was raining out, and so there's nothing to do outside or whatever. This tournament was like the biggest wrestling tournament I ever went to, besides maybe like one other one. So I don't know how many people were in my class, but I was in the 155 and under class, and Josef was in the 175s, and I did not win any matches. 0-4, 0 wins, 4 losses. And
sounds like your first time arm wrestling.
With each arm, I got beat, and this was just open too, no novice, but like everyone there was novice besides maybe like a few guys in the whole tournament combined.
Yep, wasn't big.
And with both arms, I got smoked once, and one match was close, but I still lost. And then Josef won. I want to say he won like 2 matches each arm, but there was at least 1 each arm.
Wow.
And then Jerry gave us all trophies anyway because that's how he was. And he wanted us to come back. He wanted us to come back. But even though I got smoked, and overall I got smoked, even though 1 match was close each arm, and Josef didn't. I think he might have got third technically, with at least 1 arm. We were driving home and we're both like, that was so much fun. We can't wait to do it again. So the next tournament was like a month later, maybe a little less, in Thorpe, Wisconsin. And that was more of a typical sized wrestling tournament because I actually think it was a little bit bigger than usual because I think right-handed our class had 5 and left-handed there was 3.
Okay.
And me and Josef were in the same weight class at that one. And I took first left-handed.
Yep.
And right-handed I won 1 match. And yeah, I think Josef took like 3rd, right? And I took like 4th.
But then, so you're fully hooked at this point. Did you find a practice group then?
Okay, so we got hooked up with this guy, John Grant, after the first wrestling tournament in Cresco. There was a guy there that was billed as Minnesota State Champion. That's what Jerry told us, the guy running the tournament told us. This guy's a state champion, and we're like so starstruck and just don't, like, shy, I guess. I'm pretty shy, actually, in general sense. Arm wrestling brings out the
talkative side of them.
Yeah, especially like if I'm around other people that want to talk about arm wrestling, because I can talk about that forever.
Yep.
Literally. So like this guy, like at the end of the tournament, he's like, I'm gonna bring my table and we can practice and all that. But it was late and we had like it was like just under 3 hours to drive. So we're like, oh, we want to stay, but we can't. Okay. And I like hadn't even I don't think I ate anything the whole day. I might have had like a little bit of cereal, because usually I ate cereal in the morning. I might have had like a little bit. Because I remember my parents went and got a pizza, and we were leaving the tournament, and I'm like, this was like, 4 hours before that, and I'm like, you got any pizza left? I'm starving. Because I was so nervous I couldn't eat. But we didn't get that guy's name, the state champion's name or anything, and on the way home, we're like, man, we should have got that guy's name. So I messaged Harold again, and I'm like, hey, there was this guy there at the tournament, Minnesota State Champion. I described his build, his weight. He says, oh, that was John Grant. He goes, I started him in sport, and he gave me his, wow. I don't know if he gave me his number or whatever. I found him on, like, Facebook or whatever. But it was Brandon Harrelson at the tournament, not John Grant. But I contacted John Grant, and he was like, oh, yeah, that wasn't me. He's like, but I do want to practice. He's like, he lives, like, 2 hours away from us. And, like, I can't even imagine doing this just because, like, you talk to guys online that want to get into arm wrestling, and they probably show up more often than not, but you never know, and they might be just weird, right?
And a lot of them don't stick around, yep.
But John goes, I got a table, I'll come up to your house and bring my table with me.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
And I'm like, seriously? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And I remember we planned it for whatever, like a week apart, or the next weekend or whatever. And I messaged him the night before, he's still coming tomorrow? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So he came up, him and his wife, who did a little dabbling in it back then, wasn't super serious. And it was him, me, Josef. He came all the way up to pull it 2 nobodies, basically, right?
Wow.
And he was kind of, I'd say, borderline at the time, but he said he still pulled novice. And he felt so strong, literally right hand, he could just hold us and, like, stonewall us, right? And we'd go as hard as we could, and he could just go. And there was nothing. And he was, like, 210. He was trying to drop to 176, so he was probably 215, 220. Yep. Because he was on his way down to 210 for the local tournament down south. And we were both like 160 something.
Yep. And John's still in the sport
like
to this
literally
day.
stonewalled us, and he wasn't even as strong as he is now. And even left-handed, which was his weaker arm back then, and my stronger arm, like same thing, no different. And we just couldn't believe that this. Like I thought, okay, maybe there's some guys that can do that. Like you always hear about the novices that get into arm wrestling and like they don't understand the levels. Like I thought, like okay, maybe like John Brzezinski, obviously, maybe even like Alan Fisher. I can't remember exactly what I thought, but I was sure there was some guys that could do that, but not guys that still pulled the novice class.
Yeah.
So I'm like, there's no way this guy's a novice.
Yep.
But we went to South Dakota later this summer, and John got like third in the novice. So like it wasn't like, I feel like the guys that beat him probably maybe should not have been novice, but like still he was kind of like okay to do novice.
Yep. Well, I mean that's the same. It's the same thing now. There's people in the sport.
I was so weak.
People in the sport who walk in day one and they're really good, and there's people who walk in thinking that they're going to be really good, and then anybody high novice level can just hold them center table. So it was kind of like that back then. It's just a much smaller group of people.
And people, if you don't think you can get good, I went 0-4 my first tournament. Granted, I won my second one with my left, but like I wasn't very good, even though I'd arm wrestle every day in school. And it was crazy. Like I could beat pretty much everyone in my school, like 99.9%, even if they were 100 pounds heavier than me. But in my own weight class and novice classes, granted, I went to a city school, so all the city boys are weak, right?
Yep.
It's all these farm boys.
Yeah, not the farmer boys. Yep.
They were beating me up.
But I mean, yeah, and like he's saying, you can get in the sport, be 0-4, be not that good, and you can progress. Anybody can progress.
Sorry, Andrew.
We got arm wrestling celebrities calling him mid interview here. But okay, well, I mean that was a long version, but that was really cool. Like, I don't think many people know like what it used to be like back in the day to try to have to find some way to get into arm wrestling. It's hard. So easy now.
Yeah, you went on Facebook. There's nothing.
Yeah, so, I mean, that shows dedication. So
John Grant came all the way up to Minneapolis to pull with us 2 hours, even though we were nobodies, because he couldn't find anyone to practice with, and he wanted to practice. Like, there wasn't anyone in Minnesota. There was Richard Lupkeys, who lives like 3 hours away, roughly, give or take. Andrew Bagansky, who we couldn't get... I've heard about him from Tim Lewis, told me about him, but he lived 3 hours away. And Tim thought he lived in Minneapolis, and he was wrong. But regardless, I could not find him at all, anywhere, because he didn't have Facebook. It was a couple of years before I got a hold of him, and then it was John Grant and then Brandon Harrelson. Those were the only guys, and Dave Bauer, the guy who gave me the contact info for these tournaments, was kind of in it, but he was getting out of it. Okay, because he's older and he had I think he had like a surgery each arm, so he kind of was like over it.
Well, I think that was a really cool story.
He doesn't even know Dave Bauer. He's a WAF World Champion 2000. 2000?
See, that's what I mean. He knows everybody.
He went to Sweden and he got first or second in like 93, but then he went to Springfield, Illinois too. That was 2002, I believe. Yep. And he got first in the 121 pound.
Yeah, so if you guys ever want to talk arm wrestling, Josh, just message Josh. I'm sure he'll respond, and I'm sure he'll talk arm wrestling with you. If you have a history question...
I probably won't respond.
He might respond. If you have a history question, I almost guarantee you know it. There's very little Josh does not know about arm wrestling, and I think what was cool about that story is it shows like the dedication that you've had to get to this point in arm wrestling. Like, it was such a harder way to get into the sport back then, and to stick
compared
with
to what
it.
You did.
Compared to what I did, arm bet. I sent a message to like 3 people, and then I went to practice, and then Josh didn't know who I was for 6 months, and here we are.
It's true.
So it's a different time in the sport. With that being said, do you have any advice for people just now getting into arm wrestling? Like, any advice is just stick it out, deal with the pain, like how to get into it, or what they should do in their first couple months into the sport. Obviously, it's a lot different than when you started. But...
Advice, go to practice, and don't go in with the mindset of, I'm going to beat everybody. Go in with the mindset of, you're trying to learn. Like, there's going to be someone that can beat you even if you're strong. Yep. There's probably going to be a few guys that can beat you. Unless you go to, like, a practice with this is like novices. But still, you're probably going to lose. But go in with the mindset of, like, you're going to learn, because it doesn't matter who wins in practice. You can beat everyone in practice, go to a tournament and suck. Because in practice, it's just about learning. It's not about beating people. Yep. So go in there and try to learn. And not everyone in practice is going to be a good teacher. So try to find someone that's going to be able to teach you. some guys go to practice, like me usually, and just want to practice. I'm not there to teach new guys. Not that like I have anything against them, but I've been there, done that, and that's not what I'm interested in at this point in the sport. Some people are just better teachers than others, so find someone that can teach you. Trying. I don't know if I should name people on the, but there's people that like to teach and they'll teach you good, and just take it slow. Don't rush things. Don't just try to go for quick pins. You're not going to learn anything doing that. Go slow. Try to use good form. Listen to the teachers. I'm pretty thick-headed, so like when people tried to teach, I didn't really have that good of a teacher. Like John taught me a little bit, but like.
But John was still fairly new too.
Yeah, he was pretty seasoned actually, but.
Oh, I thought you said novice level, so.
He was novice level, but he started arm wrestling in like 2000, but he was kind of in it, so like 8 years before that, but he was kind of in and out of it the whole time.
Okay.
Like, but he had developed skill, but I was pretty thick-headed, so people tried to tell me what to do, and I was kind of like, I know what to do, I don't need to listen to you.
I think just from my experience going off of that.
I'm still learning.
Well, people coming in, you can tell almost first practice when somebody new comes in, if they're going to stick around and progress based on how well they listen and are willing to learn, versus their first practice, they come in and they just want to see who's stronger.
You're probably going to have pain after your first practice, but for sure if you go crazy hard and just try to win, you're going to have a lot more pain.
Yep.
And if you're like a big into weightlifting, you might have to back off a bit, but you need to do that. You need to back off so you can come to practice, because the weights, it doesn't matter. When you're new, you have to go to practice so you can learn.
Yep.
You're not just going to be great by just lifting weights, especially if it's not specific arm wrestling lifting. You first need to learn how to arm wrestle, and then you can focus on getting stronger in the gym too. After your tendons get some conditioning from table time and you know what to do. Because once you arm wrestle for a certain amount of time, then when you're lifting weights, you can feel like, okay, this feels like arm wrestling. When you're new, even all the time you get people that are like, oh yeah, I know. No, you don't. You don't know.
Yep. 0%
chance that you can actually tell us you're just a freak.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, and this is kind of off topic, but going to Brian Shaw, I just heard on Arm Wrestling News his training schedule, and he's lifting 4 days and doing 1 day of table time. Brian Shaw's already really strong. He should be doing more table time, a little less gym time, in my opinion, and like kind of feel that was my opinion of where the match went wrong for him. I'm only going this route because we're talking about new people getting into arm wrestling, and I feel like be on the table, even if that means going light and learning technique and learning spots versus just getting elbow pain. I mean, you're going to get elbow pain, but you can still pull light, get the reps in. I think that's really good. Like, if you get your first practice, tell me what you think of this, and you have a bunch of elbow pain, don't skip a month. Go to practice, get on the table, and just pull really light and ask questions and learn things.
Yeah, I can't see where it would be hard, though. Like,
it's hard not to
pull, especially when you're new and you just want to pull.
Yep.
I was lucky I didn't have elbow pain for many years when I started. I had like that new pain where like my whole arm ached, obviously, just like everybody else. But like, I know I mentioned I had that in school, but when I actually started competing, it was like every practice, obviously, my arm just throbbed. And my first summer, because I started actually practicing at the beginning of the summer in 2008. And the second week, John came up here the first week. The second week, we went down to Rochester and pulled with him. So it was like kind of a back and forth thing.
Oh, that's cool.
And obviously, he knew we were dedicated because we went down there. And
going off of that, so what was your first, like you mentioned your first wrestling tournament, and then you went to Wisconsin. What was your first like notable match or notable event where you either placed, did really well, beat somebody that was a name to you, or somebody that like kind of sticks with you that was a good early point in your career?
Like, okay, so like the first real tournament, like bigger tournament I went to, but I still pulled amateur, was the Ruler of the Nation in 2008, which was the biggest prize money in the tournament at the time. And I pulled amateurs there in Kansas City. And I took third left in amateur 165, and I won one match right. Back then, it seemed like, believe it or not, so actually a lot of tournaments I went to didn't have an amateur with the left. They only had amateur with the right.
Okay.
But that one had amateur both, and I took third left out of like 5-6 guys probably, and I won one match right. It seemed like a lot of times it was like go to a tournament, place amateur left, win one match right.
Yep.
So that was fun. And then, so what was the question again?
Well, so what was your first
notable win?
Like where you realized okay, I'm definitely good at this sport. Like, oh, I just beat John Grant, or I just beat somebody who was a name that you knew or had heard around the tournament scene. Where it kind of you feel like.
So I was happy to get third at the Ruler of the Nation because I just been down there for fun and to meet all the big names because pretty much 97% of the top USA guys were there, like John Brezant, Ron Bath, Alan Fisher, Travis Bajan, etc., Michael Todd. But I had no idea what I'd do in the tournament, and I was happy to get third because I was like, okay, I don't suck completely.
Yep.
So let's see, 2009, So 2009, I won a couple amateurs and was like, okay, I'm going to do open class, pro class from now on. And I went, So there was a guy, I'm trying to remember where I pulled him. Maybe it was after the Ruler of the Nation in 2009, which was my last amateur tournament. The very next year, I won amateur both arms. And I was like, okay, I'm done with amateur, not to be cocky, but I kind of figured I'd win amateur and then move on. But it wasn't a given. I did take one loss left-handed to Scott Harris. Who was a rival of mine at the time, from Kansas City. But I came back and beat him. And it must have been maybe after that tournament, I feel like I was pulling Jim Coyle.
Okay.
You know Jim Coyle?
Yeah.
And he felt ridiculously strong. Anyone that's pulled Jim Coyle in practice knows that Jim Coyle in practice is twice as strong as Jim Coyle in competition. Okay. Not that he's not strong in competition. And especially, he's pretty old now, right? But, for his age, he's crazy strong still. Yep. But back then, he was still old, but, 60, not, 75 or whatever he is now.
75, yeah.
But back then, we pulled him right-handed, whatever tournament it was, and he just blasted us. I think left, too, I don't know. I know he's better right now. Back then, I didn't know that. I assume we pulled both arms, and he was blasting us both. I have no idea. But in January 2010... I went to a tournament in Kansas City. I used to go to Kansas City every couple of months because they always did big tournaments down there, and they were the closest bigger tournaments.
Okay.
Or good tournaments. And I beat Jim Coyle left-handed, and I was shocked.
Oh, really?
I remember the first time I started to pull him over, and he was halfway, probably flat-wristed, and he elbow fouled. I'm like, elbow foul, losing position. And down under was like, nope. I'm like, oh, I don't know if it was, but I was hoping.
You wanted to win.
So I figured I probably got lucky or whatever. But then I just beat him and pinned him, and I'm like, holy crap. And I remember Tim Lewis was down roughing. He's like, you might beat me today. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. But then I pulled Jim Coyle right-handed that same day, and he was like, he just blasted me. But I'm like, okay, that's pretty good. And I got second place. I gave Stuart Moyer a hard match. And I remember, this was ARM-TV days, so Gary Roberts was filming not all the tournaments, but a lot of tournaments. And after I gave Stuart Moyer, who I haven't seen in many years, a hard match, but lost and took second, Don Underwood was like, I am seriously impressed with Josh Handeland. He said to Gary Roberts, he goes, Stuart Moyer is no joke, and Josh was in there.
That's cool. See, that's the moment I was talking about. It's the moment where it feels like you're in it.
Yeah. But then the same year I went to nationals, 6 months later, and I went 0-4. Didn't win any matches.
Yeah.
I was pissed.
I
didn't think I'd win, but I was pissed. I knew I could have done better.
Yeah.
Because I should have dropped to 154.
What'd you pull?
I pulled 165s, and me and Joseph were walking in there, and I don't know who it was, but someone that we knew who they were was like, you guys pulling what weight class? We're like 165. They're like, oh no. They're like, don't do that weight class. That's the hardest weight class. There was 17 guys there.
Oh, geez.
And it was Cobra Rose, Luke Kent, Ethan Fritchie, Russell Jodry, Devin Bear, Paul Talbot, who was new at the time. My first match was Paul Talbot, and I was a little over 2 years in. He was 10 months, and he's blasted me like nothing.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. So what would you say is your greatest accomplishment in arm wrestling? Obviously, you've got some national titles, you've got state titles, you've got round robins you've pulled, super matches. What's your greatest accomplishment? The thing you're most proud of?
I think my 4 national titles, which I
do you have a particular one that means more? Is the first one?
Probably you could say the first one because it's my first one, but I actually think when I won in Texas in 2022, maybe, or the next year when I won both the IFA titles, because I know there's not a lot of different nationals now. People USA is weird because we're the one country that has a bajillion nationals.
Yeah.
Actually, not a bajillion, but I don't even know how many we have now. But back in the day when I started up until around 2015, maybe maybe until like 2017, maybe there was always 3. And so I won my first AAA national in 2014, and it was a AAA national seemed to be hit or miss whether it was a good turnout or not. And that year, I'd say overall it was pretty bad, to be honest.
Okay.
And but luckily, my weight class was the biggest weight class. I think there was still only 7 of us, maybe 8. It was still the biggest weight class, so at least I had people to pull.
Was that 165?
It was 165, yeah.
Okay.
And you weighed in the same day. The first weigh-in was Friday morning, and the left hand was Friday evening.
Oh, wow.
And the right hand was Saturday morning. And I only did left because my right was hurt. So I drove to Buffalo, New York, all by myself, 16 hours on Thursday. And since I was cutting weight, because back then I cut weight, usually I didn't drink anything, nothing, 0, 24 hours before weigh-ins.
Okay.
So I got up Thursday morning, because the weigh-ins were Friday morning. And I probably just chugged as much water as I could immediately, and I was like, okay, now that's it. I'm not drinking more water, and I left. And the only thing I drank the entire drive there was a 5-hour energy.
Oh, no.
And I had all my food in a cooler planned out. And I remember I was staying with Tim Lewis in Buffalo, who I actually roomed with a lot because, we always needed people to, whatever.
Yep.
It was just convenient. And a lot of times I'd fly if I did fly to a tournament, he'd pick me up and I'd, give him some money for like the rental car and gas and all that because, but it was still way cheaper than getting your own rental car.
Absolutely.
And he goes everywhere.
Yep, Tim goes everywhere. Still to this
it's
day.
Convenient to be friendly with him, and then you get to, like, not leech off him, but split.
Yeah, split things. Yep.
Things. And Tim loved that. So, anyways, so I remember I was like pretty depleted, and I stopped at like a rest stop and ate a little bit of food and used the bathroom, whatever. I probably didn't need to use the bathroom actually, but maybe stretch my legs. And I'm like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna make it all the way to Buffalo. So I texted Tim. I'm like, dude, I'm just gonna stop in Ohio. I'll drive the rest of the way in the morning. And he's just like, dude, just come to Buffalo. I'm already here at the hotel. And I'm like, I guess I'll try to make it. And I'm like, screw it. I was going to eat the rest of my food when I got there. I'm like, I'm just eating all my food now so I have enough energy to get there. Because once I get there, I don't need to do anything else besides lay in bed.
Yep.
And so I ate the rest of my food, got there, went to bed. Next morning, got up, went to weigh in. And when Karen Bean does weigh-ins, she is strict on the money. No allowance, zilch, 0. If you point one over, no. If you point one over and there's 10 minutes to go and you're still point one over, next weigh-in session.
I like that.
Personally. And I was 165.0 or 75.0 if it was kilos, exactly on the money. And then I went to a tournament, a WL tournament, like 3 weeks later. Same Karen Bean weigh-ins, 165.0, exactly on the money.
Jeez. So, okay, so that was...
I got off topic.
That was 2014.
And that one, Nathan Piper had to go in, weigh in later because he was overweight.
That was 2014, and you said it wasn't that big of a turnout at that one? Okay.
And then the next year I went to USAA Nationals in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and I'll give props to Corey Lyon, partial props for getting me to go there, because I texted Corey Lyon, and I said, I'm thinking about going to the Nationals in Atlantic City, would you want to go? And it was like, the day later, maybe 2 days later, hadn't said anything. He texted me back. I bought my plane tickets.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, I asked you if you wanted to go. I didn't say I was going. So I'm like, all right, I guess I have to go too. So I went. I probably would have gone anyway, like 65, 70%. But when he's like, I bought my plane tickets, let's go. I'm like, all right, okay.
You guess you're in.
And I went, and at that one, it was 176. And I weighed in underweight. I think I was like 173 with my clothes on. And... so at AAA Nationals and Unified Nationals, the WAF Nationals, there was more weight classes, 11 weight classes usually. Okay. At USAA, it was less weight classes, so there was like 6 weight classes. So usually each weight class had more people in it.
Yep. And
I felt pretty good, but I didn't know I was going to win or anything. Like obviously I wanted to, but yeah, I was I wouldn't say I was surprised I won, but it was not hard for me.
You have 4 nationals. So what 4 years did you win nationals?
So I won nationals 2014, 15, 22, and 23.
Okay. And you did not pull in 2024, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. So I guess that kind of leads into my next couple fun questions, more about the future. Got a lot about the past, but I want to think a little bit about the future with Josh. Do you have any future goals?
Goal Well, I'm going to California State, LA Fit Expo at the end of January, and my goal, I guess I'm not cocky, so I'm not gonna say I'm gonna go win, but my goal is to win.
Yep.
Left.
You're at the point in your career though that your goals to win.
My goal is to win.
Yep.
Most times when I go to tournaments, not like a Worlds maybe, but like my goal is still to win, but like I know it's like a stretch goal or whatever.
Yep.
And then I'm planning to go back to nationals this year, IFA nationals, which to me is the only nationals. I'm not just saying that because I'm an IFA guy.
Yep.
But let's be realistic. Obviously, the Unified Nationals, the WAF Nationals, some people go that are really strong, obviously, but the turnout's super low, so it's kind of like...
It's not the same. Yep.
And then, like, IFA is the one nationals that, like, it's stacked. People go. It's tough. Every weight class is usually pretty loaded. There might be 1 or 2 weight classes every now and again that are thinner, but for the most part, all the classes are filled out with top-level arm wrestlers in the USA.
Yep.
I don't even know what other nationals there are now in the USA. Like, there's sit-down nationals, which is different than sit-down, right?
Yep,
like, I think that's okay. You can do that.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I don't even know what they do. They did New Way Nationals a couple years ago. I don't know if they do that anymore or not even, but... And then I think Bill Collins does a nationals too, or one that he calls nationals, which I'll be honest, come on, Bill, there's already enough nationals. Just call it something different. Yeah. Like, come on, man. Like, I like Bill Collins. I'm going to California States, but like, come on, call it something different.
Yep. Nope, totally understand.
So my goal is to go to IFA nationals, and obviously I want to win, but yeah, I'd say that's my goal is to win. But like, if I'm not top 3, I'm probably gonna quit arm wrestling.
He'll never quit. Do you have a goal if you win nationals to go? Are you planning on Worlds?
So they haven't said where Worlds is going to be the next year or not. So I'd say, so IFA nationals, if you win, then they give you $1,000 if you go to Worlds and compete. So when I won nationals in 2023, I didn't know if I was going to go to Worlds. I still didn't know after I won, but I'm like, you never know how many more opportunities you're going to get. I already won, so I'm already guaranteed $1,000 if I go, which isn't going to cover my travel. But it's $1,000.
Yep.
That's not always going to be there.
Nope.
And I'd already traveled to nationals, already won, already spent the money on that. And so I figured I might as well go.
So depending on where Worlds
if I win nationals, I'll more likely go because I know I got at least $1,000 to cover my travel, which will usually... give or take, it'll be around flight expenses paid for, depending on where it is.
And where did you finish at Worlds last time? What place?
When I went to Worlds in 2023, I took 4th place left-handed, which actually super pissed me off because I know I could have been higher.
Yep.
But only because Yurakami, the guy that beat me twice, had just gotten a long war right before our second match. So I was like, this is it. This is my medal. I finally got my world medal. Because I knew I was going to beat him at that point, and he shocked me to still beat me. I definitely made some mistakes in that match, but I'm not saying for sure I would have beat him or whatever. But like fresh, he would have beat me, considering he still beat me when he was gassed, and he already pulled Masters. But I didn't sleep good for like a month after that.
So would you say your ultimate goal, like if you could do one thing in arm wrestling, it would be to medal at Worlds?
To medal, or I'd say win IFA Worlds. I'll be realistic and say IFA Worlds because, like, I'm not going to WAF because they'll...
Yeah. Well, because you use it.
Well, I can't, basically, right?
But
even if I could, like, I know that's... My goal in the past was always to win WAF for, like, the first 10 years of arm wrestling, but, like, I don't think I'm ever going to do that, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I will say, for anyone that underestimates IFA and has not been paying attention... There's a lot of good arm wrestlers in IFA now. The Worlds last
100%.
year overall looked like way more stacked than any. Like, there's people from like all different countries, Bulgaria, Azerbaijan, and some of them have medaled at WAF. Some of them medaled at, if you Google them and do research, some of them have actually medaled at WAF.
Yep. Yeah, IFA is not as good at all.
WAF's harder, no question about it. But and actually, a lot of the classes at IFA have not all of them, but some of them actually are deeper, like have more numbers than WAF these days. WAF has thinned out number-wise.
Yep.
So some classes at WAF only have 10 to 15 in them, whereas back in the day, 10 years ago, they had 30.
Yep. So I got 2 more for you. These are kind of fun ones.
Give me 10 more.
Hopefully these are fun ones.
Connor Bulau, I'm coming for you.
That might be the answer.
198.
Okay, who would you most like to pull in a super match?
Connor Bulau.
No, not Connor. Most likely to pull in a super match. It's probably someone nationally who that you'd be competitive with. An actual somebody you think you can
Not
beat.
Dusty Hyatt.
I mean, you could get that one back. Dusty's too good.
Not Dusty Hyatt. I'm too humble to like call anyone out above me. So, I prefer tournaments to super matches personally. But someone that I'm interested in pulling
in a tournament.
And I think we'll meet this year, so I'm not worried about like calling him out necessarily. But I want to pull Garrett Reese.
Okay.
Because he won nationals last year when I wasn't there in my weight class. And since I won the last 2 years before that, I consider that to be like my title.
Yep.
And he won. So, and I know he wants to pull me too, actually. I don't know who would win, to be honest, but based off how he did at Worlds, because he beat Urakami, who I lost to.
Yep.
But Urakami had a lot of hard matches before they pulled. Just because the Urakami style is like, he met up with another, I guess I'd say power puller, like more of a hook puller, and they had a war, fresh first round. So Urakami burned himself out. But yeah, after seeing what Garrett did at Worlds, I'm like, dude, he'd probably beat me. But I'm actually not sure, because I've seen other matches of his where I'm like, oh, actually, I think I could beat him. I think it depends on the day. The one thing with him is he's like 21 years old or something. So he's still climbing.
Climbing for sure.
So if we'd pulled like at the beginning of last year, I feel like, okay, I would be in for sure. But now I don't know.
Now you're unsure. Garrett Reese, you heard it here first.
He's ranked like 2 spots below me or 1 spot below me, I think, in the rankings. I think only 1.
Yeah.
I think it'd be 50-50 odds.
Garrett Reese, Josh Handeland, 2025 super match tournament. It's going to happen somewhere. You heard it here first.
We're going to pull out nationals probably.
Or nationals. Let's do it.
Because he's going to be there. I already know for sure he is. So.
All right. One last one. Dream match. If you could pull anyone in the world just for fun, to see how they feel, to, talk a little smack. Not that that's your thing necessarily.
Connor Bula.
Connor's taking all the hits in this video.
Just kidding, Connor.
Who, in the history of arm wrestling, who would you like to pull?
History of arm wrestling. So it could be a past. Like
it could be a past,
be like, okay, I'm going to take this guy from the past.
Yep.
Oh, I can think of a few of them, but he'd probably...
It doesn't matter if he'd win or lose.
He'd probably for sure kick my ass, but and you don't even know what this is probably, but Roman Sindigliani.
No, I have no idea. He knows everybody.
He was, or you might know him as Jambol Vibliani. He was the multiple-time WAF champion at 65 kilos, 143 pounds back in the early, anywhere from like 2000 to 2010. Super dominant at that weight, and then he moved to USA for a couple of years. He was from Russia, and then he moved back to Georgia. And I never pulled him, obviously, because I was like up-and-coming 165-pounder.
Yep.
But he went up to the 154 class, won the Arnold's 2-3 years. Then he won Worlds, WF Worlds a couple times at 154. And then he kind of got a little bit older. I think he's like mid-50s now, maybe he's probably mid-50s at least. He went back down to 65 kilos for Worlds, took a couple seconds and thirds. It'd just be cool to feel like what he has, and could I even like hold him, or like would he just rip me open like nothing?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he's past his prime now. I like to pull the prime version.
But absolutely.
I did see a video of him like maybe, I don't know if it was like 3, 4, or 5 years ago, lifting weights with the Georgian team. He was in the same, I think I'm 95% sure he was in the same Levon dungeon basement gym doing the partial curls. And he looked like he could lift a lot of weight. I'm like, man, that guy is a freak. Like, I think he was doing like partial, like halfway down and back up, like for, I don't remember how many reps, like 6 maybe, with like 100 pounds. Okay, maybe more.
Say his name for me one more time.
Roman, Jambol Vibliani would probably be. So the thing is, he was Roman Sindigliani, but then he got arrested and he went to jail, and they accused him of assisted murder or whatever.
Okay.
Like there was a bank robbery and there was a murder back in like the 90s, and he was the getaway driver. Okay. But then like they put him in jail, and then they finally sent him back to Georgia, where he's actually from, even though we thought he was from Russia. But then they apparently, from what I heard, I don't know everything, but they couldn't convict him because there wasn't enough evidence. Okay. So they had to let him go.
Huh. All right,
and I think he's like a mafia boss too, so he might come after me and kill me. But I do remember Roman. We were in the first year I went to Arnold's to watch in 2010. He rode in the back of my mom's car that I drove there.
Oh, that's cool.
Because we went out to eat, me, him, and Vosgin and Gary Roberts.
Oh, wow.
And then we went back to the hotel and we went swimming.
That's so cool. Well,
he's a cool dude, man. Like he's so strong and nice. He was respectful and
that's kind of your type of
yeah.
For those of you who don't know Josh, well outside of this video, he's not a big smack talker.
Only in practice for funsies.
Only in practice and only when it's Connor Bulau.
Yeah.
That's pretty much
No, Connor's. Yeah.
Connor,
he would kick my ass.
Connor, Andre's
way strong.
There's a couple guys you talk to a
Only,
little bit.
Yeah, I can't say any names, but another guy I'd like to pull would be, I just would like to feel he's got, Rick Salawada was a multiple-time USA national champion at 143, 154.
Okay.
When I started, he was the man at 154, left-handed in North America. And then he even went to WAF quite a few times, and usually he was in the top 3 on the left, top 3, top 4. He's probably got like 4 or 5 medals if I had to guess at 143.
Okay.
So I'd pull him at like a 165 catch weight or whatever.
I think both those answers are super interesting because most people in arm wrestling would say
Brian Shaw,
Devin, or
I've gripped up with Devin though.
Yeah, but I'm just saying they'd have a name, and you have guys that most people probably have never.
But if I grip up with Devin, it's gonna be like whenever he wants to beat me, he can do it whenever he wants.
Yeah,
like 0% chance. With these other guys, like I don't think I'd have that good of a chance with Chambull, obviously, but like I'd like to feel like if it's like night and day, or if it's like a little bit like resistance. With Rick Salawada, I feel like it'd be close.
Okay.
Granted, I'm heavier than him, but I know his hand was ridiculous, but I'd like to pull. You won't know this guy either, but to me, one of the pound for pound strongest lefts in the world is Merim. Let's see what's his name. Yersayan Merrimbek from Kazakhstan. He's multiple times 132-pound world champion left.
Wow.
I'd like to feel what that feels like because, I mean, he's obviously a lot lighter, but he's so dominant at that weight. And he's the one guy that if he stops a match, I've seen him have like a war and then another war. Like me and Jake Stang's match times 2.
Yep.
And then he'll do like 5 of them in a row and still win all of them. And it's like, how do you even do that?
Endurance just stays.
Yeah, like a lot of these Kazakhstan guys, right? They never wear out, but like he's just amazing. And he's the guy that if you know who he is, you might know him from this. Like he'll be in a match that's like a minute long, and all of a sudden he'll just do this, and he'll like almost pin a guy just by going like that.
Oh, okay.
Have you seen that?
Yeah.
I think I even saw him pin a guy once like that.
Yeah. It's just like the quick little hits.
Yeah.
And
But he'll almost like pin a guy just by like all of a sudden just doing that in the match.
Yeah, because it's unexpected because you're sitting in a dead hook.
But most guys just can't do that even.
Yeah.
You know? Like that, not that far down.
No.
But
actually, that is what Jake Stang kind of tried to do to you too. You guys were stuck in a hook, and Jake just started
Oh, he was hitting. Yeah.
Just super quick, but it was.
But it wasn't like this, was it? Like
no, it was. No, it was.
Yeah.
Just, yeah.
But yeah, that Merrimbek guy, just to feel like what the top 132 pounder would be pretty amazing.
That's cool.
So, I think I can beat all the 132 pounders left-handed
in the world,
but except maybe that one.
Okay. Well,
only if they're like they can't be like off-season bulked up to like 170, because then it doesn't count because they're not 132. But
you might be able to make 132. You're not that far off.
Nah.
The way it's going, Josh never gains weight. He's 168, 169.
I pulled some top. I won't even say names, but I pulled like some top. For sure, top 10, 132, 143 pound guys, and felt like I could beat them for sure.
Okay.
But not like top 1.
Yeah. Well,
but obviously, they're a lot lighter, like 20, 30 pounds, so.
Cool. Do you have any final thoughts? Any else thing you want to talk about arm wrestling wise? I know you could just go forever. So.
I could go forever, but I just like to arm wrestle, so
yeah. I
don't know.
That's Josh Handeland.
I probably won't ever be number 1, but like I'm always gonna try just because like it's good to be. It keeps me in shape. It's good to be motivated and driven to do something like in life, I guess.
Absolutely.
Like even if it's just a hobby, because I don't get paid money really. Like even if I get paid a little bit here and there, I don't really make anything where I wouldn't call this a hobby really. I know people are gonna be like, "Oh, arm wrestling's more than a hobby," but really it's just unless you're like making like.
Unless you're getting paid to be on the pay-per-views, basically.
10,000 plus a year, it's a hobby.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's
fun and it gives me something to like strive towards in life. Yeah.
Yep.
And it gives me a social outing because otherwise I'd probably just stay at home and not really do much.
Get fat and eat ice cream.
I think I'd still be in shape because I think I'd find something to do to keep me in shape. But
yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably run or something and
yeah.
I think I think I'd still probably lift a little bit but it'd be harder to stay motivated.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Well, arm wrestling's a love of mine and yours. I appreciate you sitting down to chat about it. All I can say is a lot of dedication to the sport, a lot of time in the sport, a lot of knowledge, more than anyone I know about the sport. Like I said, he might not answer you, but reach out if you have a question. He's definitely great to talk to at tournaments or events. Don't be shy. He can always help you out with something.
Yeah, if you want to talk arm wrestling with me, I'll talk arm wrestling with you.
Yep.
For a whole day.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you, Josh. Josh Handeland, everybody. We'll see you soon. We got a couple more of these episodes we're going to do over the next couple months. So thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
All right.